So I'm probably just going to post this on YouTube. I might end up posting it on Instagram, but who knows. But I really wanted to make this video amidst this like downswing that I'm on in poker right now. And it basically goes along the lines of this. I feel like we are indoctrinated to believe that if you, especially in the United States, it's a capitalist society, very individualistic, and that breeds both good and bad qualities, but one thing that I feel like we're taught in the United States growing up is that if you work hard, hard work will pay off. If you work your ass off, you will achieve a happy life. You'll get the white picket fence, the house, the car, the girl, all these things, right? And I've really, I don't know, like as a kid, I feel like I took that to heart more than a lot of people around me. I've worked really hard at a lot of different things in my life. I'll keep it kind of brief for this video, but the things that I've worked hard in, in my adult life are poker and writing. And I feel like I've gotten very, very, very good at both. But, I don't know. Like, I just turned 27 and I'm kind of miserable right now, honestly. I feel like I've put in all of this work, and fuck you. Sorry. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm driving right now, and people aren't very good drivers. So, yeah, they want to take that out on me. It's fine. I got better things to worry about, aka this video. So, but yeah, going back to what I was saying, I have, in terms of my writing, I have a couple of pieces, of a novella I self-published. I have a novel that originally I wrote as a screenplay because I felt like it would be a great TV show. Little did I know that it doesn't matter how good of a TV show it is or isn't, nobody and their mother is gonna pick up a script of somebody that is not connected or in the industry. So I decided to novelize it, right? So I novelized my script, and I made a full-length novel, and I worked, and I've had trouble getting it published, because again, like, it's a little bit different of a world. I thought there was maybe a little more merit to it, but, still, like, if you're not a big name, it's hard to get published. And I feel like I also, like, within my writing, I write, my writing, it kind of touches on the subject, I guess, of, this video, in a sense, in a funny way, of like masculinity. I feel like I write a lot about like young men and the challenges, the challenges they deal with, in the world we live in. The expectations, the pressure, all these things. And I feel like it's a very underrepresented topic, but I feel like it's underwritten partially because, as my editor reminded me, there's not a lot of boy readers out there. It's not, it's not much of a boy book market. So I feel like, yeah, I spent a lot of time, with my writing, and I will, my goal is to eventually go back to writing. I love writing. I think that's my main love, but, it wasn't making me any money. And I was writing and working behind the bars to pay my rent, and just kind of got in this frustrating loop. And eventually, like, I had grinded poker before in my early 20s, and then kind of got burnt out and played part-time, but then, like, I'm like, you know what, like, I write, like, my book is about poker, like, what if I came back to the game and, grinded and made a living and, maybe made a name for myself. And I did that. I grinded, and I played online, which is really tough to play. It's much tougher to play online than live. And I've worked I continue to play, and I've continued to work my way up through the stakes. But amidst that, like, I made it to the WPT championship. I won a big satellite, in December or November, and I ended up playing in a $10,000 buy-in tournament. And around that time in my life, it just really felt like maybe everything was going to pay off. Maybe that it was my time. Maybe that I was going to prove all the people that doubted me wrong, and I was going to prove all the people that believed in me right. And I was going to have this miraculous speech, of how I won the WPT, how I went from nothing to winning the WPT championship, and the whole 9 yards. And then I got to day 2, and before the money hit, I busted. Got it all in pre-flop with kings. Not pre-flop, excuse me. I got it all in on the flop with kings. Queen Jack 7 in a 3-bet pot. Pretty standard. It wasn't playing too deep. Had maybe 20 big blinds before the hand. Got it all in on the flop. The guy has Queen Jack. I lose. Standard tournament hand. But the walk that I had out of that room was just, I was devastated. Writing wasn't working for me, and I felt like I was being held down by a market that didn't believe in my writing, even though I believed in it, even though I know that a lot of people that have read my stuff believe in it. But I felt like, my voice was being suppressed, and I felt like coming into poker, I was just like, okay, like, this is going to be coming back to poker and seeing the success that I saw. I thought that this is going to be my time. Everything was, all the hard work I'd put in, it was meant to get me to this point. It was meant to get me to this point in poker, and I was going to win the WPT championship or run deep or do something and make a name for myself. And then I would get my writing out there and everything would work out and I would be happy. But that's not what happened. So I busted in the championship. I'd continue. I kind of came back, like, the walk out of because I had gone to Vegas, just to play this tournament. The walk out of that room was devastating. But as I got back to, my hometown in Napa, I was actually, like, really motivated again. I kind of got, like, reinvigorated, and, I took that, and, I kept playing cash games online, and I was crushing, and I've been crushing for months. And I kind of just had this feeling of, like, okay, like, this is my thing. Everything that's happened has had to have happened for a reason. But recently, won a pretty big downswing, and it's just like, obviously I've had moments where I feel like I didn't play well, but, and it's not I'm still up on the year, but, like, I feel like for the past week I've really, like, done everything I could, and I've played perfect, really, like, in a lot of spots, and I've lost a couple of other spots, and just losing a flip, losing this, losing that, but, like, I don't know. I might just sound like a poker player, like telling his bad beat stories, and I don't want that to be like what this video is, but basically I've reached a point, regardless of the results with poker, that I'm just drained. I've spent 1,100 hours in the past 6 months playing poker. I've been quite profitable, but at the same time, like, I'm not rich. I'm not at this point where it's like, you know, I can just like, I'm not at this point where I'm just like, I've made it, because I haven't. And I'm also really lonely, you know. I feel like, I mean, this might be reaching a bit. I feel like a little bit of like jealousy from like some of the people around me, you know, that kind of just like saw me have some success and maybe think that like I got lucky, or that I didn't, and like I kind of feel like within this downswing, like some of those people, like, I don't know, they're almost kind of giving me the, oh, well, what did you expect to happen? And it's not sustainable, and it's not this. And like, I don't think it's like out of malice. I think it's more like, I think it's just human nature, you know, like we want our friends to do well, but we don't want them to rise too far above us. So I've gotten to this point where I feel lonely. I feel like I put in between, I mean, this doesn't include other things as well, which I won't get into, but like between, you know, poker and writing, I've put in years and years of, because poker, I mean, again, I played, just to emphasize this, I played poker before this year. I came back to it, 6 months ago, full time, I should say. I was still playing before that. I've dedicated years and years of my time to become a really good writer and a really good poker player. And I don't have much to show for it, in my opinion, for the time that I've put in. And I'm also just empty. You know, when you put in all this hard work and you neglect like your friendships and relationships and, you know, family at times, like, you just become this hollow, empty person, you know. And that's, I don't know. I look at my life like even just a year ago, and I was still chasing my writing, of course, and I was frustrated with that. But, you know, I was in a relationship with somebody that I really cared about. You know, I was grinding the bars, which was really kind of tearing me down a bit. But like, you know, like I was still surrounded by like people I cared about. I was generally a bit happier, you know, but at the same time, like, I feel like I'm too far gone in the sense of like, I grew up, like I legitimately grew up and was kind of just sold on this lie that like, if you work your ass off, you will get everything that you want. And that's just not how life works. You're never going to get everything you want. And if you put too much time and energy into one thing, you're just going to end up being miserable. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I don't know how to get out of it. I think, you know, like part of the things I write about, I live, you know, in terms of just like struggles of being a young man in this world. And part of that struggle is just being alone. I mean, I got my family, but like, nobody's gonna come and save me, you know? Nobody, you know, there's a reason why, you know, I'm not saying this is me, like, but there's a reason why men have a much higher suicide rate than women, you know, like sometimes a lot of it's quiet, you know, this quiet depression that men have. You know, we don't want to be a burden on people. And we kind of hold this, and I feel like we're taught by society to hold in our emotions and hold in that burden because you don't want to lay it on other people. And, you know, I'm not special or anything. I feel like I've held in that burden, though, for a long time. And it's hard, you know, it's hard. And I'm not saying we need to live in a world where men complain about all their problems or anything like that, but there's, excuse me, there are times where I feel like I am screaming and shouting, you know, maybe metaphorically, and nobody ever hears me. Or if they do, they plug their ears or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't really know where I go from here, because, you know, I could keep grinding poker and pursuing that, and, you know, who knows, maybe I'll look at this video in 3 years and I'll have made it in the game, but I feel like there's like no way out for me. Like I really feel like that. I feel like I've worked so hard, you know, to try to be special, and just like anybody else, you know, like, I'm not saying that's wrong, but I also just like, I don't know. Sometimes, like, I feel like I'm very unlucky, you know. I feel like I've worked hard and I never caught that big break. And I don't know. Maybe some people are meant to catch that break and other people aren't. And I think deep down, when I was at the WPT Championship and when I've played in some of these other bigger tournaments, and I've had a chance at life-changing money and status and fame, even maybe not wide-scale fame, but you know what I'm saying? But like, I had a chance to be big. I feel like I've always kind of known in the back of my head that it was never meant to be me. And I think that's what hurts the most. But that's my video. I don't know if you guys got anything out of this, if you got to the end, but I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. You know, I would love somebody in the comments to tell me I'm wrong, but it just feels like this hard work is a lie. You know, like working your ass, like, it doesn't matter how hard you work. If it's not meant to be you, it's not going to be you. And I hope I'm wrong about that. I really do. But that's just my life experience so far. But anyway, that's all for me.